as I was listening, I was just thinking about how the word is so, it's like ointment to a wound, and how you have to apply it to make it work so that it works. And so that was just, I love it. So it's all good to see you, family. I have shared before a little bit about my fear. Normally I just do it like off the top of my head. I have notes today. So a little bit about my story started close to 5 years ago. I went from being like super independent woman, I was starting a business, afraid of nothing, to entering into a whole different life of marriage. And I found out that I was terrified to trust people. I could trust myself, I could trust God, but I'm like, okay, now I have to open up and trust this flawed human. No, I can trust my own flaws, but so I had to open up and be vulnerable with my husband. And then he has shared his story about, when I met him, he had a drinking issue that I didn't know, but I kind of did. But I was like, oh, it makes sense now. We dealt with the kid's mom being very, causing division and that sort of thing. Plus, that was the time I was really building on my business. So like totally different land. Totally different, my world was upside down, and there were times that things would just trigger this feeling in my nerves, and I would just shake, and I'm like, what is this? And it was taking a hit on who I was. I felt so embarrassed, I felt weak. I'm like, I'm a strong woman, what is all of this happening? And it was totally out of my control. And so that was just hard in general. And so there was nothing familiar about the new land that I was in. And I remember praying to God. I was like, I thought this was the promised land. Like, I have a full family now. I'm married with a loving husband. I have a business. It's going well. And I'm like, I thought this was the promised land. And I was getting off of 90 at West 117th, and I heard him whisper, there was giants in the promised land. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, let's see. Oh, I did good. I covered most of this. So I used to go, one way that I, in the flesh, was thinking was so genius was to go to worst case scenarios. I was like, okay, well, worst case scenario, our marriage doesn't work out, my business crumbles, but God will be with me, Like, worst case scenario, right? That'll give me some peace to just, but you know what, God? You'll be with me through it. And that would get me through, in the short term, these horrible worst case scenarios that I would try to find confidence in the Lord with. And then one day he told me, like, don't go to worst case scenario. That's not your story. He's supposed to be in those. So it's like I was partnering God with my fear, and I needed to partner God with my faith. And that was a big eye-opening moment for me, because humanly I thought this was such a great idea. And the Lord was like, no, you get to speak into those moments. So if I was afraid that my husband would be tempted to, drink or whatever it is, I could speak, God, deliver him from temptation, and the Lord would honor that. And, with the kids and the struggle with a combined family, speaking over their mother and things, and just, praying over the kids, I've just watched God move in such beautiful ways. As a mother, I'm like, okay, here's the 5 things I can worry about. And, and I sit there and I just think that I'm being productive by worrying about them, and it's not productive at all. And God was like, no, those are the moments that you pray. You, instead of worrying, you pray about all those things, and then you would end up, praying a lot during the day. So, like layers on an onion, he peeled away throughout the years, and he showed me ways that I needed to build on him. So the best way I can describe this is there's a scripture in 1 Corinthians, and it talks about, what the person built will be tested through fire, and what will last will be standing there. So I feel like the last 5 years was really just him, putting myself through this fire, my what I've built on through the fire, and what was coming out and what I feel is out now is just standing, with what I built on the word, the gold, the silver, the jewels, and the things that the world tried to tell me, this was the proper way to build, just kind of burned away. And so I feel it sounds crazy, but I feel so blessed to have gone through it. I have like a heart for people that have dealt with, fears or different things that I've struggled with. But I've also just been refined, and the parts that were me, that were built on me and my own systems, burned down. And I had to rely on the Lord because I was like a puddle of mess in front of him. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I thought I knew everything. I'm like, I know nothing, Lord. I don't know how to build this thing. What even is a hammer? And before it was like, I had all the power tools. But no, he rebuilt me in this incredible way. And although there are times that I can still feel, I'm like, oh, I know what that feeling is. And instead of running away from it, those feelings, it's like Goliath. You run to it as uncomfortable it is, and you say, like David said, like, oh, no, I come at you with the Lord on my side. And when you do that, oh my goodness, like that thing that seems so real just shrinks. And there are times I'm like, Lord, bring your presence. It's like, well, you're always here. So I'm like, no, increase my understanding of you being with me. He is always here. It's just us me getting just distracted, or, my thoughts trying to convince me of worry. So I stopped being afraid of my thoughts. I stopped being afraid of the feelings of anxiousness because I just seen them as like a giant. And just coming, it's exciting when you think about you get to fight. Well, to me, you get to fight this, this giant. You get to defeat it, and you know that you're the victor in it. And I'm very ambitious, and I really like that kind of stuff in life in general. But when you fight in the spirit, you get victory, and then you just have these stories and, just the evidence of the Lord in your life. So the amazing thing about it, too, is because I clung to, like, the Word and to God, the bad things crumbled, but, like, my marriage became stronger. My relationship with my kids became stronger. When there was conflict, I'm okay, Lord, like, what do I do? And he would just show me and guide me. And I was patient with myself because before I'm like, I was too hard on myself. So I became patient with myself, and I've just learned just so much. So, I was never called to trust in my situation, but I was called to trust in God over my situation. And so instead of trying to trust in the world that's so broken, situations are not going to be perfect, people are not going to be perfect, but I felt like I was trying to trust in those versus God. And when you put your trust in the Lord, nothing else matters. And you see his hands in everything. So that's my story.